No. The current no, yeah, the current, so for my sister-in-law, she has no idea. She likes it, she wants.
Hello, friends. You could talk amongst yourselves as we start to let people in. We'll give everybody a couple minutes to get settled in. Tina, I see you're in a row. Denise, I know you had asked to go. Denise asked to go last, believe it or not, and that's fine, but we got you. And okay, I'm just letting people in and setting up co-hosting, and just give us a minute or two and we'll get sorted out. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Hi, Denise. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Tina?
Good, good.
Look at you in the car, huh?
Listen, I'm trying to hit multiple events, multiple things. I figured since we're doing this on Zoom, I might as well shove some more things in.
Good for you.
I know.
Good
That makes
evening,
sense.
everyone. Good evening.
How you doing,
Evening,
James?
James.
I'm all right. I'm at the office. I've been here all day.
Oh yeah, I left because I wanted to do it at home. Since my daughter's in town, she just got in this morning from Washington State.
Oh, nice.
Since I haven't seen her since Thanksgiving, so I figured it's time.
Well, it made it easier for me
Yeah,
to do it here because my basement, I don't know if I told you all, I got water in my basement over the past
Oh.
week.
Oh, is
So
that what you were talking about the other day?
Yeah, when I got back from Washington, I went downstairs to my basement and it must have been about 8 to 10 inches of water in the basement.
That's horrible.
And
I've been there.
I just redid the basement. Like literally, it just got done within the past 4 months.
Oh my God, that's horrible. Do you
Yeah.
have the,
So,
do you
That
have
is
the
horrible.
flood insurance for the basement or no?
no, it's not a flood. It's not a flood zone. So I never purchased flood insurance.
Yeah, I just did the backup, like, but it only gives you like $15,000. I think it was 5 to
Mhm.
15 if your sub pump backs up because it doesn't work because of a storm.
This is the house I grew up in. We've never had a need to have a sump pump. It never was
Really?
in the order in the basement. I've been living in it. Technically, I haven't really been living there that long, but technically, 40 years.
That's
There's
crazy
never
though
been
that
a
it flooded
flood.
then.
It never flooded. So much
Yes.
so the basement used to be a carpenter's workshop. So there
Wow.
was always
Oh,
wood and drywall and stuff always downstairs in the basement. So it had to stay dry.
yeah,
We've never gotten water until this is the first time.
that's horrible.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that because especially after you just did the basement.
Yeah.
Now,
Uh,
will your insurance cover any of it or no?
the insurance will, but I don't, the good part about it is not too expensive. And I already had a water pump because
Okay, good.
for some reason in my head, I was like, I think we're going to need a sump pump because the
Mm.
water table's gone up. And I'm like, so I went out and brought one like maybe a year ago. So it's been sitting in a box for the
Oh,
past year. Now it's actually going to get installed. So,
yeah. No, that's the worst. I've had that happen in my old house when I lived in Little Falls in Passaic County.
okay.
And it turned out there was like a root though that was blocking the drainage is what happened from one of the trees. It
Okay.
wasn't, it wasn't like that it would flood ever. It was just that that's what happened. So that when the water, was coming down from the rain, it didn't go out like it was supposed to.
Mm.
So you may want to look at that too, see if there's something outside your house.
I'm thinking it might be. Now that you say that, it could be something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If it never flooded before,
Yeah.
that could have been what happened because my house was 1929, I think it was built, the one in North Jersey, and it had never flooded before. But of course, I bought it, and that first year
Flood.
it
Exactly, right?
flooded. So I've
Exactly.
been there. That's tough.
Hmm. Yeah, I had the guy come by last night, so my contractor that does most of the work, so he'll send his plumber there tomorrow, and then the plumber should be getting ready to install the sump pump over the weekend.
Oh, that's good. Were you able to get to pump out some of the water before it got too bad
Yeah,
or
it's
no?
it's basically dry down in the basement
Oh,
now.
good.
So I think basically what it's going to be is we're going to break up the bathroom that I just installed.
Oh,
And because the way the bathroom's situated, it has enough space underneath it for me to install the sump pump in that area because that seems to be where the water wants to collect at.
oh, that's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. It is the lowest corner of the house, so I'm figuring that's the reason why the water's flowing that way.
Yeah, do you have the French drains or no?
No, no. And he said there's not a need for a French drain.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
we ended up having this like one area in the corner of the basement in the front of the house, what the other house that I had,
Okay.
and we had to put the French drain in the front because the builder put something around the outside, but then in that one front section of the house, it would get water. Just not a lot, but enough that they had to come in and fix it.
Agreed. Yeah, listen. I didn't, again, this is the
Never ending.
range of
Houses are never ending.
and what's crazy about the other house we had before this one, it was in a flood zone. Sandy hits. I'm like, okay, I had the flood insurance. I was ready to go. Not a speck of water hit
Nothing, huh?
nothing, nothing. I mean, but the other side of town, it got walloped. I mean,
Yeah.
they were on boats getting
Oh
around
yeah,
the
that's
area.
how Little Falls was. There's one section that would flood all the time, and where we lived, we never got any flood. That's why it was weird that one time that I got a storm and it flooded. But then, like I said, it was a root on the outside, so you may want to check it.
Yeah,
Let's see.
it is what it is.
Mhm.
But that stinks though that you just finished it.
Just finished. Went from being a basement that looked more like a tool shed area, storage space, to actually furnished basement with an office and everything. I mean, I did it up, and then lo and behold, this happens.
Mhm.
Ay, ay, ay. Hey, folks, we had about 50 people signed up, so I'm sure that they're going to trickle in. But I think, oh, here's comes somebody else now. I'll just continue to admit people as we go. We did the wheel of names last night because I'm a math teacher and I like to be random. So I believe the order was, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Tina and then Henry and then James and then Denise. Is that right? I think that's right. And we had decided on a loose format. I appreciate the virtual portion of it because then we don't have to drive all over Ocean County and the state. I know you guys are busy campaigning and I appreciate what you're doing. So we wanted to make it convenient for everybody. And also I'm recording, so there'll be an opportunity for this to be shared out with members as well. And if anybody wants to put those links in like the NJEA members group or something like that now and have them join or share it out later, whatever you want to do with it, that's fine. But I just want to start by saying hello and thank you to everybody who's here. And so we have 4 fantastic candidates for Secretary-Treasurer this year. I have had the privilege of working with all 4 in some capacity. And I'm Dan Staples, by the way, and Manchester Education Association originally was hosting the event in Manchester. And Josh says that the comments are set to host only. So I'll see if I can do some science to fix that. There you go. We're done. Fixed. So I think that elections are very healthy. And I love the fact that we have candidates that all have a passion for serving and they all have a vision. And I think that's amazing. But I feel like a lot of times people go to vote and they don't even know who they're voting for. So the idea is that we should learn a little bit about more who you are, why you're running, yada, yada, yada. And the best way to do that is to be very neutral and say, let's give every candidate 15 minutes. With those 15 minutes, if you want to talk about your platform, that's cool. If you want to take questions or if you want to address any specific things, your 15 minutes is for you to do whatever you want. If you want to put on your tap dancing shoes and show us your skills, go for it. And we'll do it that way. Does that sound reasonable? All right. And I see some chattage going on. I'll continue to let people in. And Tina, are you ready to go?
I am.
right.
I will say, sadly, I forgot my tap shoes. I'm in the car. So, oh my God, I was going to do that, Dan. So it's really crushing that I'm in the car and I forgot them. But I do want to say thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I appreciate everyone showing up because I know at the end of the day, like we are tired and it's tough sometimes to do all the work you do within your buildings and then come out and do the union work on top of it. So I do want to take this opportunity to first thank you for everything that you do to make our public schools as great as they are, and also everything you do to make our union so strong. So I truly do appreciate all the work that you all do. And Dan, I want to thank you personally for setting this up and making sure that your members and other members are informed, because we all know that elections have consequences, and it's so important that we make sure that people are educated about the candidates before we go to vote in any election. So thank you for that. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Tina Dare, and I am a 26-year high school chemistry teacher. And I am still currently in the classroom. And I say that because I feel the stress and the strain that you're all under in your own school buses and office buildings and classrooms. I understand how hard it is to get a sub when you're out, or what it's like when you have teachers near you going on maternity leave and we can't find people to fill those positions. So I feel the same stress that you feel each and every day. And I truly do love my students, and I love my profession, and I love this union. And to give you a little background about myself, I was raised by a single mom, and she taught second grade for 42 years. And her dedication to hard work and perseverance and the belief that our actions truly speak louder than words have shaped the person that I've become. And those same principles are the things that bring me to the roles today as a leader. And I just want you all to know that I truly understand what it's like in order to live in this educational space that we live in. In addition to being a high school teacher, I also serve as the president of my local. I am the treasurer of the Gloucester County Education Association, an NJEA organizational development and government relations consultant, and I'm the chair of the NJEA Government Relations Committee. And I tell you all this because from the work that I've done in all these positions, you can see that my actions reflect my core values, and they are the foundations that I'll bring with me to the position of NJEA Secretary-Treasurer. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the 4 main principles that I stand for. And if you have any questions as we're going through this, feel free to pop them in the chat box or save them till the end. So first, I'll say that I am a firm believer in creating a voice for marginalized members and making sure that they have a seat at the table, because I should never speak for any other group. And I want to make sure that they're involved in our union, they're a part of our union, and that their voice, their authentic voice, is being heard. And I've done this as a local president. I've ensured that our executive team was a diverse and inclusive team, and it represented members of color and the LGBT community and various job categories. So I make sure that all of these things are sitting on my executive team because I want their voice to be heard. Second, I truly believe in making sure that we fight for our ESPs. And as a local president during negotiations, this was one of the important things, is we went into negotiations knowing that our secretaries within the unit were being paid the lowest in the county. And we said, we are not coming out of this contract unless we get them a one-time salary adjustment to make sure that they went from the lowest paid in the county to the top in the county, because it is important that we show them the value that we believe that they have, and that we show them that we will fight for them and we will stand beside them. I've also worked in fighting for ESPs on lots of privatizations in the South. So being from Gloucester County, the southern area of our state is often faced with privatization battles, because we know as soon as there's a budgetary issue, our ESPs are the first ones that they attack. So as a consultant and as a president in Gloucester County, I've made sure that I've gotten involved and fought back against each of these privatization battles that have happened. It's truly important that we stand behind our ESPs and make sure that we're fighting alongside of them. As the chair of government relations, I have also made sure to fight for our ESPs. I've worked on the job justice bills, and more currently, I've been working on the pension justice campaign, tier 1 for everyone. And I bring that up now because DCRP is a part of that. And we know that our ESP members are being hurt the most when it comes to DCRP. They are not getting a fair pension. So I made sure in the Government Relations Committee that we brought that to the forefront, and that we've been continuously fighting to make sure that our ESPs get what they deserve. Third, I believe in building budgets that serve our members and that give back to our members. And I've had the opportunity to be the county treasurer for the Gloucester County Education Association for many years. And throughout that time, I've worked to create budgets that provide free overnights for our county and ESP county overnights. And we also provide scholarships, 15 of them for every single NJEA overnight conference, because many of our smaller locals in Gloucester County can't afford these costs. So it was vital that we would find ways to make sure that we were supporting them. And so I believe, even though this wouldn't necessarily be something on the statewide level, it's important to note how I was making sure that we worked with everyone within our association to build a budget that was fair, to build a budget that we had input from members, and making sure that we were serving their needs. So I have the experience of a treasurer to make these things happen. Fourth, and my final thing is, I believe in making sure that we have political strength, because as everyone knows, politics affects every aspect of our work. And as the chair of Government Relations Committee, I have been in the forefront when it comes to our pension equity fight. And I've made sure that we've advanced bills such as our sick leave law, our ESP job justice, Chapter 44. These are all bills that have started and gone through the NJEA Government Relations Committee, and I have been a part of. Not only have I worked on bills, but I've also helped to elect pro-public education endorsed candidates, and I've made sure that we built strong legislative action teams locally and also statewide. We've grown our statewide LAT program. We get hundreds of members that come on every few months to be able to talk about all the legislative issues that are happening across the state. And these are so important during the times that we're entering into, that we have someone that understands politics and is able to work bipartisanly to get things passed that will actually help our members. And I'll say all these things that I talked about would not be possible without organizing, without working together, and most importantly, listening to members, because your voice is what truly matters. I am not a leader that believes that it should be what I say. It should be what the members need. We are so much stronger when we unite, and I am committed to ensuring that your voice is heard throughout NJEA. We are facing some significant challenges in these upcoming years, and we need leaders who are ready to fight for the future of public education. We have to protect our students' future, and we have to ensure that our members have the resources and the strength that they need to survive. We need a diverse leadership team that represents all parts of the state, and our leadership team doesn't have. And as a woman in a 70% female-dominated organization, and the only candidate from the South, I bring that diverse voice to our leadership team. I have proven that I am truly ready to face all the challenges that approach us. And I hope that I can count on your support in this upcoming election. My name is Tina Dare. I'm running for NJEA Secretary-Treasurer, and I dare you to vote for me from April 1st to the 15th so that together we can continue the fight to protect public education and create a stronger, more unified future for all of us. I appreciate the time. And Dan, would you mind if I popped into the chat box my information and my postcard with all my information on it?
Yes, please do. I'm trying to hold on. My background I have to get rid of, but I have everybody's campaign materials from the meeting last night. And I think, yeah, definitely please pop it in the chat. And I also will mail this out. And just so you know, you're on the big projector screen with my exec board. So the number that, we're all sitting here watching you on the big screen. Yeah, if you want to do that, that's great. I was trying to hold everybody's stuff up. There you go.
Yes, I just popped in 2 pieces of information. That also has my email address. So feel free to email me if you have any questions. It has my website, my Facebook, my Instagram, everything you could possibly need. So please download those, take a look at them. And if you have any questions or comments, I'd love to take them now. I don't know if I'm out of time. If I am, feel free to send me an email.
It's 5:17. We have 5 minutes for questions. So if anybody has any questions, if you want to use the hand raise, I see Elaine White with her hand up. So Elaine, if you want to unmute.
Actually, it was a mistake. I didn't mean to, but I was, since I'm on here, I just want to thank all the candidates for doing this, because we really appreciate it. Sorry about that. Sorry about
Thank you.
And we will make this recording available for all the locals, at least in Ocean County. I mean, it doesn't really make a difference if it's statewide, right? So that we'll get it around so everybody has an opportunity. What I don't want to hear when it comes time to vote is, I don't know any of the candidates. So I think as dues paying members, we have to take the time to get to know those candidates, and so that we can all make a good vote. So thank you. Are there any other questions for Tina? All right, seeing none. If Tina,
Can I ask a question? I couldn't find my hand raiser thing. It's Elisa Waller.
Go for it, Elisa.
Hi,
Hey,
Elisa.
how are you? Hey, I really liked a lot of the things that you said. I really like the fact that you pointed out how females, there was more females, 70% females in the job. So that's really important. But I have a question. If you have any concerns about what's happening in our government with the Department of Education being overrun by Trump and destroying DEI, and what you think, how you will handle that or that approach. We don't even know what's going to happen, obviously, but just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
So I think it's so important to address that question. So I appreciate it. So one of the things that I heard most recently is I was in a meeting and they were talking about DEI, and the person said we should say diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I thought, wow, right there, that's so powerful, is the language that we use, because DEI has become such a buzzword for people that it's become such black versus white. And really, this is about all groups and making sure that everyone is treated fairly. And so when we say diversity, equity, and inclusion, it really makes us think about what do those words mean, and it changes the power of who it belongs to. And I think that was one thing. As soon as I heard that, I said, wow, I am going to do that from now on, because it makes it more personal and it makes it more powerful. And we're not going to listen to their, rhetoric of just calling it DEI. So in saying that, I think one of the things which we already currently are working on is making sure that we have a goalie here in New Jersey, because there are certain things that we might not be able to stop at the federal level. But if we don't have a goalie here in New Jersey and to be able to protect us and insulate us, that becomes a problem, which is why politically, I truly believe in making sure we're involved in all of our endorsements and all of the political things that happen here, because we need to have someone that's going to protect us for the things that are coming from the federal level. So I stand behind making sure that we do everything to make our voices heard, that we make sure our members and our children feel safe and that they feel included and no one feels excluded. And we have to start by being politically active and talking about these things and getting pro-public education candidates elected to help save us here in New Jersey. Thank you for the question.
Good stuff. We have 2 minutes left. If anybody has any other questions for Tina, I don't want to short anybody on time.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that.
Welcome. Scott Campbell has a hand up, a real hand.
A real hand. Yeah, just for Tina, she's got a couple minutes here, but for all the candidates, we all realize that NJEA serves a lot of purposes. In a general phrase, what direction do you think NJEA should be going? If not, just stay the path, we're doing a great job. Are there differences that you think that you could improve upon the organization?
So I do believe we're moving in a good path, but I do believe one of our weaknesses and the things that I bring as a strength to the leadership team is to make sure that we are focusing on politics. And when I say that, I don't mean DNR, I don't necessarily mean elections, but I mean on making sure that we educate our members about how issues affect us every single day. And I think it's about taking the time to take a step back and talk to members about the idea of, do you like your healthcare and your pension, and making them understand that these things do have roots in politics. So if we talk more about issues and how those issues affect us every single day, I think it makes us stronger as a union. It also makes us stronger with our political power to be able to talk to legislators on both sides of the aisle, to be able to explain why we need certain things to pass, why we need certain bills, certain laws, certain endorsed candidates. I think it gives us more strength when we talk more about the issues that affect us and how it ties to politics. And I don't think that we do enough of that at NJEA.
Thank you.
Wow, that took us right to 15 minutes.
Good. Oh, look at me go.
Tina, thank you for joining us in your car, and I appreciate it and welcome you to stick around. And I think next up we have Henry Goodhue, right?
I was next on the wheel, Dan.
Henry, right.
On the magic wheel you sent me this morning, so I can absolutely vouch for the legitimacy of Dan's randomization. And I want to thank everyone for being here tonight, and more so thank Dan and the MTEA for hosting this. I think it's incredibly important that we have as much interfacing with members as possible prior to them making a decision about who will be their next state officer. As Dan said, my name is Henry Goodhue. I'm a proud special education teacher from Hillsborough, which is in Somerset County, New Jersey. 21 years ago, I became a special education teacher because I wanted to support students and because my father had instilled in me the desire for advocacy and equity in all areas of life. And when I became a special education teacher, one of the things that was very apparent to me right off the bat was there was no way I could do my job, or more importantly, that my students could be successful without my instructional assistant. So 10 years into my career, the Board of Education decided that they were going to try and save costs by privatizing our instructional assistants as well as our custodians. And I found that to be educationally inappropriate and personally offensive. Because in Hillsborough, where I live, there are 1,100 members in our union, a little bit less, but close to 500 of us actually live in town. We're very unique in that way, that we live and work in this town and we send our kids to these schools. So as I sat there and I looked at the custodian in the hallway and I looked at my instructional assistant, I wasn't seeing just a member who was worried about losing their job. I was seeing the parents of my students. I was seeing someone who was worried that they weren't going to be able to pay their bills. I was seeing someone who wasn't sure how they were going to feed their kids or get them health care. And then I was looking at my students and I could feel that they were wondering whether or not they'd be able to stay in my classroom where they felt like they had found success. But because of a foolhardy savings measure that the board was trying to use, they were causing this trauma on my members, on my colleagues, and on my students. And I became upset by that, which is understandable. And so what I did was I reached out to the community and I reached out to local legislators, municipal legislators on both sides of the aisle, and we formed a coalition to start talking about how privatization economically impacted our town, that there were hundreds of people who lived in town who were not going to have health care, who were not going to have a steady income. And we started talking about this issue and found common ground on it across both sides of the aisle. And at the time, I was a building rep. I had 7 classrooms that I was responsible for sharing information for. But I just personally found the drive to do this because I did not want to see something harm my students, and I didn't want to see something harm my friends and neighbors. And we moved and we mobilized, and I'm very proud to say we beat back the privatization attempt. The board backed down very quickly when municipal leaders started getting involved. And the byproduct of that was that I inadvertently got myself elected as president, which was not what I set out to do at the time. And for 11 years since that time, I've proudly served as the president of the Hillsborough Education Association, which is a wall-to-wall association, meaning that I represent every unit within the district aside from just confidential office staff. So we've expanded our membership at a time when boards are trying to privatize and shrink. We've actually added more ESP units, most recently adding security. And it's given me a very unique perspective over my decade plus of leadership to see all the different issues that are happening throughout New Jersey for the members that are in those units and what their needs are, both legislatively or within contracts. And we've worked very diligently over the years through our contracts to represent all of our members, especially our ESPs. Most recently, we were able to negotiate a sidebar with no givebacks to increase our buildings and grounds starting salary by $10,000, cut their guide in half, and increase every step by $3,000. So we brought those gentlemen into a meeting where they thought they were getting privatized, and they went home on a Friday realizing how much better off they were for it. And more importantly, they realized how valued they were. And that was through advocacy and coalition building within the district that we were able to do that even outside of a contract. During negotiations, I'm really proud that we were one of the first locals in New Jersey 3 contracts ago to ever negotiate out of Chapter 78. And 9 years later, my members are actually still bearing the benefit of that language. Even with Chapter 44 in place, many of my members are able to maintain their base plan based off of the language that we negotiated. Me doing that led to me being on the Chapter 78 task force for New Jersey, and then the ESP Job Justice one, as well as Pension Justice and a bunch of other task force for New Jersey, where I've worked to advance legislation like paid sick leave and some other ones that are very important to our members. But outside of my local, I've found myself pulled into county work where I proudly serve as the first vice president of the Somerset County Education Association. We have over 7,000 members, and I co-chair government relations and run point on many of the campaigns that we are involved in, whether it's county sheriff, our commissioners, or any of the state or national campaigns that we've run. And I'm very proud that we've been very successful in almost every single one of our candidates who's been endorsed to actually win. Andrew Zwicker probably being one of the most important of those ones because he's championed many things for us. And on the national level, I serve for the NEA Resolutions Committee, where I work on predominantly human rights and civil rights resolutions. I'm very proud to do that work. Over the summer, I advanced a resolution rather, through all 50 of the different states that were represented there to deal with educational reparations and the correction of issues from the past and issues within our education systems. And I was very proud to have the support of every state in that place. But as my time went on, I found myself in other places where I was working on the Governor's Educator Shortage Task Force, and I served as one of 4 NJEA representatives on that task force, where I was able to advance the SGO freeze, $10 million in paid student teaching, which we are currently introducing in legislation to make permanent, as well as a number of other things. But that really solidified for me that there is so much more work to be done and that I enjoy doing this work, and I want to remain in Trenton to advocate for our members on behalf of them. I invite all of you to check out the links that I will drop into the chat in a few, where you can see some of the goals that I've set for the NJEA, including an audit of our dues structure to ensure equity for all of our ESP members so that no one is having to choose between being a member and healthcare. The creation of a high-functioning labor council, because I wholeheartedly believe that we need to reach out to other unions so that we are not alone in our fights. An indexed NJEA budget so members can quickly find their values reflected in our expenses, and a digital library of members' stories so that we can share our histories and build solidarity from that. But most importantly of all, I am a proud parent of 2 wonderful New Jersey public school students. They're taught by NJEA members, and my wife is an NJEA member. So the work that I do is very close to my home, and it's close to my family, and that motivates me to advocate for our members like family. So if you believe in the power of unions and the promise of public education, I humbly ask for your support. My name is Henry Goodhue, and I am running for NJEA Secretary-Treasurer. Thank you.
All right. The only thing that stinks about Zoom is we can't do the applause. It's a canned applause. So
you can still do it. You know, we have, yeah.
We're applauding for everyone. They're all wonderful. Thank you, Henry.
And Dan, with my few seconds left, if I can just address the 2 questions that were before, because I think they were incredible questions.
Sure.
I know there was the question about what are we going to do about some of the issues that are coming out with these executive orders and impacting the DOE and things like that. And honestly, what we have to do is meet them head on. We have to empower members to have information to make sure that they are able to engage in conversations where they see comfortable so that we have a groundswell from the bottom up, not from the top down, because that's on the micro level where we will address these things. And proof of that is with the recent funding freeze that was attempted. It was not legislators who turned that back. It was people who sent emails, who made phone calls, who pushed back on that. You know, most recently, actually Tuesday of this week, I'm very proud to have hosted an immigration forum where we brought together representatives from the New Jersey Principal Supervisors Association, the NJEA officers, myself, and a bunch of other people, as well as a formerly undocumented immigrant who spoke to his story about being a DACA student and what that felt like and how he saw it change. And we had 140 members registered for that, and they left with a toolkit that I created to help them go back and know how to navigate some of this educationally. So I firmly believe that knowledge is power in these situations, and that we have to take an active role in proactively addressing them, not waiting and then reactively responding to it. And to the other question about the direction of the NJEA, I certainly believe the NJEA is doing a lot of amazing work, which is why I'm choosing to run for this position and hopefully getting to serve in it with the 2 other amazing state officers. But we have to do more. There's more that we can do and more that we can grow with. And as much as I think we can grow in a number of areas, there's none more important than empowering our members, increasing their voice and arming them to find ownership of the union. Because we can't, again, have these top-down directives. We have to have a bottom swell, because the power of our leadership is the members who stand behind them, not the reverse. It's not me at a board meeting that makes our members powerful. It's my members with me at a board meeting. And we have to amplify that on the state level so that our members feel engaged, they feel informed, and they feel activated, because it will help us achieve collective solidarity and our overall success. If there's any other questions, I think I have like negative 2 seconds. I'm happy to field them.
Good stuff. Thank you, Henry. I'll try and hold up your literature.
Like just me floating there, Dan. I appreciate it. I'll throw my links in there as well. And again, thank you everyone for being here. Dan, thank you to you and your team for putting this together.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. Good stuff. So next up, we have Union County President James Frazier. Let me spotlight you. Spotlight. There we go.
Hey, good evening, everyone. And Dan, thank you so much for putting this together with you and your team. We really appreciate this opportunity for us to dialogue and for the members to truly get an idea of why we are running for this position of being the Secretary-Treasurer of NJEA. So first and foremost, let me introduce myself to you all. I am James Frazier. I am a 28-year school security officer from the Township of Union. I grew up in Union. I've been living in Union predominantly for basically my entire life. I am married to an incredible educator as well. She is a world language teacher for the past 23 years. We have two college-educated students, well, children, that I'm proud to say that they worked hard and we were able to not have any bills for them through strategic financing, but neither one of them would like to get into education because they do not want to stay there until they're almost 70 years old. So we really need to do something about this pension justice and equity within our pension justice, and I'm definitely the person to make this happen. So understand this. I'm originally from Newark, New Jersey. I am the son of two drug addicted alcoholic parents, and due to their life issues that was set before them, they were not able to raise myself and my brother, and we both were put into foster home. So you can understand that, education was, or the schoolhouse was one of the most important places for me to be in my journey to where I am now. I remember growing up plenty of times just thinking to myself, even as a young kid, how am I going to make it? I living from bag to bag and home to home. It was real tough. I can tell you that much. I really struggled in school. I was what you would call that at-risk student. But I worked hard. I eventually graduated at the top 10% of my graduating class. I was fortunate to start school, but I landed a job. And I also wind up having a child at that time as well. And so I went into the workforce. And my first job was working at an eye doctor. And I tell you what, it gave me an idea of what it meant to work outside of a union-driven establishment, where it was almost dictated on what I was going to do, what my hours were going to be. And I really did not enjoy that. And lo and behold, an opportunity arose where a former principal of mine called my house believe it or not, and asked me if I would be able to volunteer to work with an at-risk student. And at that time, I was like, I don't know, but I'll definitely take that time out to help because I always believe in one thing, and that means is what are you doing for others? And through that opportunity of me helping this young man, I wind up landing a job as a paraprofessional. And that was 28 years ago. And now I'm a school security officer, and I'm working for the community in which I live. I've grown up in that community, and like I said, I've become an intricate part of that community. I am very much involved in all the community politics. I sit on the Democratic Municipal Committee. I am the third vice chair of the Democratic Municipal Committee in Union Township. I'm also a part of the Union County Municipal Committee. I've served as the president of the Union Township Democratic Party as well. But more importantly, I've got the power to work with our unions, and that's because of the members believed in what I was able to do to help them out. I began my union journey as a building rep, just like most of us. I went, classroom to classroom, giving information, informing the members as well. But I found that I had a niche in working in politics, and I became the government relations chair, where I was able to start building relationships with our local politicians, with our mayors, our school board members, as well as I garnered a friendship that right now, basically, I call this man one of my family members, and that's with Senator Joseph Cryan. At the time, he was an assemblyman. And we began to work and build dialogue with the association as well as with our community to find ways to solve the issues of the members with our community. And through that work, I was able to become the president of the Union Township Education Association, which is a 1,000 member wall-to-wall association. And let me tell you how interesting it is that I became the president. At the time, there were only 15 security guards throughout the district. And for me to become the president of the association meant that those 1,000 members felt as though that I represented them in every capacity, in every space. And no matter what issue was going to arise, that James Frazier was going to be there to help them. So from that position, I went on to making sure that we got a board of ed that looked like our association, that was able to ensure that we got our policies answered. So we began to work to endorse candidates for our board of ed. You might know one of our endorsed candidates. That is Kimberly Scott Hayden, former NJEA ESP of the Year, as well as National Education Association ESP of the Year. So I went on to become involved with the county, where I became the county first vice president, as well as working on our county budget committee. And now I currently sit as the president of the Union County Education Association, a 12,000 plus member association here in Union County. But more importantly, I was able to be elected to the NEA Board of Directors, where I served as an NEA Board of Director for 6 years. On that Board of Directors, I had the opportunity to work on many policies and legislation that were from you, the members. I sat on the Safe, Just, and Equitable Task Force, where we came up with a new NEA policy around safe, just, and equitable schools. I also sit on the NEA Gun Task Force, where we're talking about gun violence in the schools and how members can be able to be informed of how to deal with this issue. I currently am still working with them in regard to pull out a toolkit for the members across the nation, across the world, in order for them to have a piece of literature in their hand that will be able to help them and to help the students within their classroom. So, but also, and more importantly, I sat on the NEA Strategic Plan and Budget Committee, where I was there for 6 years, and it was an elected position amongst the 3.5 million members across the nation. And in that position, I was the senior director. I was responsible for a $500 million budget that was to ensure that the members across this nation and across the world were able to have what was necessary for them. And so when I say this, understand that everything I did was in regards to ensuring that our members got what was necessary for them. So we redesigned the ESP Leadership Institute to encourage for more membership participation amongst our education support professionals. We also recreated the Conference on Racial and Social Justice, which is probably one of the most attended conferences within the NEA world. But understand, as your next Secretary-Treasurer, there are some key areas in which I'm going to be working on, which is provide a professional supports for our members, advancing racial and social justice. And in this area, I will support members in advancing racial justice and education and improving conditions for students, families, and communities through awareness, capacity building, and partnerships, community partnerships and individual and collective action. We're also going to look to elevate the educator voice. These challenging times demand that we ensure our educative voice and autonomy and our leadership at the forefront of all our budget and association priorities. But understanding that we need to identify, recruit, and support and engage new educators in our association, connect them with the opportunities for professional learning, leadership, and advocacy, and do this all through an equitable lens. We must address pay and pension equity, as too many of our members, especially our education support professionals, are living in poverty. Moreover, we must prepare our members for professional advocacy, equipping them with the challenges that lie ahead. We will foster those sustainable partnerships that I spoke about before that align with our organizational priorities. And these priorities are going to be established by you, because the way I look at a budget is that it's about what your priorities are. And it's about putting you in a space that you understand what our mission and goal of NJEA is. It's essential that we engage in an ongoing dialogue and bridging the gap between members and leaders. Together, we can effectively address the challenges we face and advocate for the best interests of all our educators. Because now more than ever, we need to come together as a united front. We have the power to create the lasting change, and I'm committed to leading this change and that charge. Let's embrace our opportunity by electing the first education support professional to ever exist within NJEA leadership. This is going to be historic, people. And this will show about us being a true equitable organization. And when we talk about equity, it's not just racial equity. It's about ensuring that our members are heard and felt. All the members are heard and felt within this organization. Because I believe if you're not at the table, they guarantee you're on that menu and you are a part of that meal. So together we can build a brighter future for our students, our families, and our beloved profession. Understand that I am a fighter. I'm a fighter for public education. I am a fighter for our labor unions, and I ask for you to support James Frazier as your next Secretary-Treasurer, because I will support and work for you and understand that I get a knockout every single time. So I thank you all for this opportunity for me to address you all, and I stand for questions.
All right. Thank you, James. And you actually still have about 5 minutes left if anybody has any questions for Mr. Frazier. Hold on. Let me, I have to take the spotlight off so I can see if there's any hands that are raised, real, artificial, any hands? I see Elisa with a real hand. All right. Elisa.
Hi. I didn't mention it before, but I'm from Toms River, art teacher. Hello. You said something really interesting. You said things that are necessary for members. I was just curious if you have like a mini list in your head, just of some basic things you think that members that are necessary, that members need. What's necessary that you think members need? Like, what do you think the top things are?
Well, one of the top things is about professional support. You know, I believe more importantly, within our roles, there's never any support in regards to how we do our professions, what we're doing in our classrooms. I hear it from my wife all the time. You know, she's a 23-year educator. Fortunately, she has, you know, she's kind of built her own little space within the school building. But when there's ever any issues, there's nobody to reach out to. The administration never knows what's going on. You know, her supervisor doesn't know what's going on. But a lot of times the members turn to the association. And I'm sorry to say, but our association is living in an antiquated world. All right. We're still delivering the same workshops, the same stuff that we've been doing for over 20 plus years, to the point where we have conferences that have low attendance rates because there's nothing out there that are truly reflecting what is going on in our classrooms. And our members have no space to find out how to really, truly help and support them within their profession. That's probably one of the number one issues that we really need to address, because even as a school security officer, our day-to-day does not look the same each and every day. And it's basically because we get directives from one aspect of the police department. We get an aspect of, you know, what the administration thinks we can do. There's nothing that's really out there that's in code on what we're supposed to be doing. So there needs to be something that the association can do in order to help us within each of our professions. Another aspect of something that I truly want to work on, because, listen, this will be the first time we have an education support professional in NJEA leadership. It's about time for NJEA to truly start talking about a livable wage for education support professionals across this state. Okay, that's a quick fix in many areas if you really think about it. We really need to. You have paraprofessionals who went to school to get 60 plus credits in order for them to be in that position. And guess what? They're not treated as if they're college degreed educators in those classrooms, making $15 to $18 an hour to do a job that is probably one of the most stressful jobs within a school district, in order for them to take care of some of our most precious students. Okay, it's about time for us to really start to address this. I had this conversation with NJEA leadership a few years back about us truly making that leap, having those conversations with those legislators to say, hey, we need to address this across the state, and ensuring that we get a livable wage, not a living wage, a livable wage for a family that is living in this state who are ESP. Okay, I've got stories from across this state that are talking about how our members would rather go work at Walmart or Amazon than be a part of a school system that could really use their expertise. Okay, so it's about time for us to start to address that. That's just a couple. I could sit on here for about an hour, and I know I ain't got that much time, but believe me, this is something that is always on my heart.
You're right. Bam. All right. Thank you, Mr. Frazier, President Frazier. And let me put, I'm so bad at Zoom, but his flyer's here. I'm sure he's going to drop it in the chat.
I will.
I promise I am holding it up. I'm just not a tech dude.
With Allegra, you can stop being sneezy. Sit tight.
I'm going to mute. I'm assuming that was an accidental unmute. And I see Denise King has put her literature in here. And just so the candidates know, all of your literature was just handed out to the exec board to go out to the buildings. So everybody's stuff is going to go. It'll be on our bulletin boards at all of our work sites tomorrow. So last and certainly not least, wheel of names, we have Monmouth County President, longtime Monmouth County President, and also fellow consultant, Denise King. And so I'll turn it over to Denise King. All right, here we go.
Thanks so much, Dan, for arranging this. And it's great to see so many familiar faces. Earlier on, I know everybody now pretty much is not on Face, but Elisa, thanks for staying on. So I feel like I'm talking to somebody. So most of you probably know me that are on this, but a lot of people are not going to know me where this is going to be viewed. So I'm Denise King, and I'm hoping that people will support me in my candidacy for Secretary-Treasurer. I'm a proud public school educator and a local leader, as well as a county leader. I've been involved in the association for over 20 years, but I've been in education for over 30. So as a longtime art teacher myself, and I have taught basic skills too, but I have taught kindergarten through 12th throughout my career as an educator. Currently, I am full-time release as a county president, and that provides me an opportunity to meet with local leaders on a regular basis, as well as county leaders, state leaders, politicians, as well as superintendents sometimes, to try to advocate on behalf of our school employees. Many times we're not thinking of every single member, and that's something that we have to be cognizant of. In my 20 plus years as a leader, I've played many roles in the local. I was an AR, been on negotiations, vice president, knew the health benefits, health and safety committee, and just recently stepped aside as president Homedale Township Education Association, but I'm the past president and helping them with their LAT currently to keep them up to date on everything going on in our politics. I've been an NJEA consultant for 17 years. And what does that allow me to do? Anything from trainings to advocacy to Donaldson hearings when people are not renewed, to right now actually negotiating many contracts. Those various roles that I play have helped me see every level of education and every level of NJEA and how it operates. And I feel that I can bring that expertise that I've learned to the role of NJEA Secretary-Treasurer. As a county leader, I'm in charge of the budget. I have to make sure that everything that we agreed to spend money on, that the rep council voted on, after the budget committee made decisions, is adhered to. I need to make sure that once that's done, that there's a voucher system in place, that everything's documented. And that's really important as a Secretary-Treasurer of NJEA, that those skills that I've gained through as a county local leader and also as a consultant. I go on to lead locals all the time, and I look at their books with them, and we go through it, and I give them advice on how they're supposed to make sure they're filing and adhering to guidelines on the state, federal level regarding their budgets. And as a Secretary-Treasurer, I really feel that's important. And regardless of your role in a school district, I feel that I strongly advocate on behalf of all members and have been from day one in my role as an educator and as a leader in my local. I feel strongly about being inclusive, whether you have a job as a bus driver, you're a paraprofessional, a secretary, a custodian, you're doing maintenance, or you're a grounds worker, the classroom teachers, the special area teachers. Everybody has a specific job that's required to make sure that our school runs. NJEA is there to support that role and make sure that we have a fair wage, that we are there to advocate on behalf of our members. Many people don't realize that most of our day has been created through legislation. Didn't really realize that myself when I became a county leader. I saw how much the county leaders and people who feel strongly advocate on behalf of them. For example, Monmouth County was instrumental with Chapter 78 reform and job justice bills. We went with many members to talk to our legislators. We did various videos about how people were losing their houses when Chapter 78 came into play, how they could no longer provide things for their kids. And myself, I have had the same amount of money, even though you get a raise, you don't get a raise because you're paying for your medical. And it's concerning because now we have, more and more expenses. You go to the store and you see how much everything is. I talked to a member in Brookdale the other day telling me that, you can't join NJEA because can't afford it. Can't even afford to buy groceries. That's something that I feel strongly about. I'm a strong advocate for our ESPs because I feel a lot of times people underestimate the requirements of their job and their job category. Um, we couldn't do our jobs without them. So that being said, I always advocate for a strong livable wage, and have on bargaining for my members. And as someone who's been involved in NJEA and a member of NJEA for 30 years, I've seen a lot of change in the organization, and I've seen growth, whether it's the local, the county, the state, or the national level. And I've learned that things that affect on the national level are affecting us on the local level and the county level and the state. And it's really important for us as advocates to know that, so we can be intentional with what we're doing. For example, right now, the pension bill. If you're not a pension advocate, you should be, because 5 of our politicians in Monmouth County signed on as co-sponsors to that bill, and that would move everybody back to, hopefully, if they've got voted through, to tier 1. Right now, tier 5 is unattainable. People don't want to stay in our profession, and it's really important for us to advocate for all members. Our paras that are in DCRP, they're not only paras. There's people who are teachers that are DCRP. DCRP is defined contribution. You can't even use that money to buy your pension. And our legislators need to be informed by that. So that's something I've been doing. One of the things that concerned me last year, a lot of, as we're saying, things change. A lot of our staff have been accused of things that are not necessarily true. And it's important for us to advocate for them, and make sure that bills like the bullying bill is inclusive, so that everyone's rights are protected, regardless of where you are in the schools. So one of the things that I want to see happen, I'm a president of a diverse county, right? We have Asbury Park, and we have schools like my own in Homedale, that it ranges, from our kids that are our poorest kids to very wealthy. And we need to make sure that we're really advocating for all our stakeholders, and students included, right? As NJEA, we advocate to make sure that our teachers are well qualified for the roles, that they have background checks for anybody working with our students. And when I look at NJEA, the things that I want to see done for the future, besides working towards political legislation that will help our members in our schools, but I'd like to look at how we allocate our funds, and by doing that, possibly not raising dues every year. I haven't raised dues in the county all but one time in the 11 years I've been president of Monmouth County, and having to run several times for reelection. And the only reason we raised dues from $25 to $40 was to provide that full-time release program and make sure that we're not going back and asking people over and over to dig into their pockets. The other thing I'd like to see happen in Monmouth, and I think Ocean is very similar to us, and some of the other counties have small little locals that have maybe 5 members to locals that have thousands of members. Some are not all inclusive, some of them are inclusive, and some of them are getting paid stipends, and others are not. And so we're not seeing people being able to stay in the roles as leaders because they just can't afford to. So maybe reimbursements back for LAFAP money to the locals, so that we could possibly pay our local presidents some small stipend, at least, to show how much we appreciate everything they're doing on a daily basis. In Monmouth County, we provide the office space. Anybody's allowed to use it. They register to use it. So any local can use it. Our retirees just used it today. And every stakeholder in our school districts could have meetings there, which is great, because sometimes you don't want to meet in the schools anymore. You want to have a space where it's private and you can meet with your members. And I want to work collaboratively with our stakeholders in NJEA, whether that's me working closely with our VP and our president of NJEA, or with a rank and file member. I think that's important. And I want to continue to advocate for our pension and our health benefits, because our health benefits in 2028, that Chapter 44 sunsets. And once it sunsets, we're back to the same thing we were with Chapter 78, is trying to bargain or hang on to the benefits that we currently have, which we're paying quite a bit of money for. So for me, I think that all these goals that I have are attainable goals. My background in the diverse leadership roles provides me with great insight. And I feel that I'm an inclusive leader who works well with others. And I think that's important. I think that you have to remember that going forward, we need to be a family and continue to grow as a family and support one another regardless of our role in the organization, and encourage our younger population to see the benefits of being part of NJEA. And I feel I'm the leader to do that. So thank you very much for allowing me to come in today to speak. Dan, thanks for arranging this. If there is any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I believe there's possibly a few more minutes if that's okay, Dan.
Yep, we have 4 minutes and 38 seconds left for anybody that wants to answer any questions for or ask any questions for Denise. Or we have a real hand, Alyssa Waller.
Alyssa,
Hi, Denise. How are you?
good. How you been?
I'm good. So Tina Dare said something interesting that I liked. She mentioned that, 70% of we have a 70% female population basically, right?
Yes.
And you said that our day is based off of legislation, which is like really a really cool picture to see, like how they're just sitting around in a room deciding our day.
Yes.
So I was just thinking about women because it's so high, such a high base of women in our career. What kind of legislation you think would be helpful for women that they're trying to take away from us or not give us anything of, like, something with pregnancy or leave, like what kinds of things you think our job, just one thing off the top of your head, our legislator could help women within our job specifically?
Well, some of the things, I mean, there's a lot of things that have actually, because of our advocacy, changed, right? Being able to use sick leave to take care of our kids or go to their shows in their schools, right? To be able to do that. I know we feel strongly, we've been talking more about roles for, and we did training actually in Monmouth County for maternity and paternity leaves. One of the things that came across really that not all schools are providing the same types of supports, and you have to like bargain all these things. And I think that if we could come up with standard language regarding, for example, they were talking about like IVF, right? A lot of times, there's miscarriages through that. And, when is a viable time and when is not a viable time? And is there legislation to provide people with that mourning period? And that's something we've talked strongly about. People bargain it, right? But it's not necessarily there for all of our members. Adoption, for example, I know I had a member, now it's gotten better, right, with the New Jersey laws, but when he had adopted a child from China, the district didn't even want to give him any time off. I mean, that's concerning. Now in today's world, I would hope that we realize how vital a role of a parent is and that they're going to do that. So those are things that I think for women and also men who are taking care of children, right? Because let's face facts, now there's a lot of stay-at-home dads and people are taking paternity leave. So I think it's important for us as advocates to make sure that our politicians are informed about how limiting it is really to work at a public school and be a parent, because we're not doing virtual, right? A lot of districts want you there every second of the day, and when we talk to other people in employment, they're not working in a building, they're staying home and they're able to do things differently. So I think that's something we could look at too. Thank you.
All right, good stuff. Is there anybody else? Any questions for Denise? Let me put my video on so it doesn't look like I'm being creepy. Oh, I should turn my video off. I look less creepy. Listen, I want to thank everybody for showing up that logged into the Zoom, everybody who's huddled around somebody else's Zoom. And of course, this recording, we will put it out. I'll put it out definitely through the local and throughout the county, and I'll put it on my social media channels, and I'll ask the candidates to do the same. And I don't care if you just edit it so it's your part, it doesn't make a difference. But what really does matter is that voting in NJEA elections has decreased about 7.5% per year every single year. And I just want to throw it out there that your vote is your voice. So we're electing somebody who's going to be our next state officer. And historically, I believe almost everybody who has mentioned virtual, I'm sorry, I'm going to hold on. Denise mentioned virtual. What would you expect or hope to see made virtual for us? Was that answered, Denise, or no?
No, I didn't answer that, but if you want me to, I can real quick.
Sure.
I'd like to see the opportunity for people to do their preparation periods if they're not in the middle of the day, to be able to utilize that time at home, instead of always having to be clock to clock. Because we all know that, well, if you're an educator and you don't do this, which I know no one doesn't, is you have to plan. You cannot have a classroom of even if you have 5 kids in a classroom, if you don't have a plan, you know what happens with those 5 kids if you're in education. Even parents at home would know what happens with those kids when they're not engaged in something. So something along those lines, that's what I'm talking about more. I don't want to see our jobs become virtual by any means, because, having been an art teacher who taught virtually, it was not easy. And something that could take you 5 seconds to teach in person would take me about a half hour to get that point across to some of the kids. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. And so all the candidates, big round of a virtual applause for every single person, because running for this really huge job, I personally, my belief and opinion, note that you didn't tune into here, is that all 4 are very qualified and bring a lot to the table, and any one of them would be an excellent choice. So the most important thing is to make sure that people know to vote. Ballots are going to come out, I believe, April 1st to April 15th. I personally hate the fact that it's a paper ballot and people have to remember not to throw it away. But we do want to get the turnout for voting. So we're going to vote our state officers and then whatever else you have going on in your county stuff. But thank you to everybody, and make sure to download all their literature. You'll have their contact information. They all have some social media presence and they're all very accessible. So if you think of a question after we log off, or you want to learn more about a candidate, I encourage every single person to reach out, because your vote is your voice. And that's all I have. So thank you very much for joining us. I'll hang around for a couple minutes so that you can go through the chat and download anything you need to download. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Dan, for arranging this. Have a
Cheers.
wonderful night, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody there. I really appreciate you all for this opportunity. So you all have a great evening, and thank you for your advocacy.
Yeah, and Dan, thank you to you and your team and everyone for being here tonight. I appreciate the time, and have a great night. Reach out if there's any questions, please.
Good stuff. Thank you. Allison Pullman, there's a name I haven't seen in a minute. Good Lord. And Rachel Kelly, I just saw you in person. Now I see you at home. Emily, I haven't seen you since the PNC Bank Art Center. It's been so long. All right. And Elisa Waller, I think I'm going to see you probably in like 20 minutes. All right. Josh says we're going out for a beer. If you're still on this chat, shoot me a text. We're going out for a beverage. All right. Take care all.
Okay.